Hey guys, what's going on? So today I'm talking a little bit about mindset and attitude, right? So the one thing I've noticed when I'm building the business is that I don't want to generalize, so most people's frustrations, they can kind of be boiled down to a lack of personal achievement, right? So that is definitely one thing I've noticed whilst like building the business and having people in your group. People are only really frustrated when they haven't really achieved much themselves, right? So inheriting wealth, that's not really an achievement, right? You're just inheriting your parents' achievements, basically. And it also comes with boredom, right? So frustration and boredom kind of go hand in hand for people that are naturally ambitious, right? And boredom also comes from a lack of purpose and a lack of achievement, right? So the business can kind of hand you both those things, right? Because you basically want to become a better person. Your purpose in the business is to become a better person so that people follow you and people join your team, right? So it gives you that purpose and it gives you that achievement if you follow your purpose, right? So one thing I've noticed, I used to get bored all the time, but I've never been bored a day since I've been in the business, right? Because there's always something to do and it's always productive, right? Because you make it productive, okay? Like perfect practice makes permanent, right? So if you're not practicing to a high degree, then you're not really getting the most out of your time, right? So why would you practice if you're not going to practice the best version of yourself? In sports, it's like you play how you practice, right? So if you practice at a low intensity, you're going to play at a low intensity, right? So yeah, one thing I've told people is when they're like lacking purpose and they're lacking direction, they're bored and they're frustrated, you just need something worthwhile to chase. And that was enormously true for me personally. I just needed something worthwhile to chase, and this business was it for me. You know what I mean? And the other thing is, when you're gathering momentum, you can't let the doubters slow you down, right? So the doubters are like friction, right? If you let the doubters into your head and like take up your mind's like space and the words that you say back to yourself, you're going to become far more negative and you're going to slow down your dream because of something these people thought, right? And the honest truth is they don't have the facts. They're just telling you opinion. Because if they had the facts, they wouldn't be able to speak negatively. All they would have to say is positive things. So why are you listening to negative people's opinion when you know it's going to be negative, right? You know you've got a dream. You know you've got something in the business. Don't let other people's negativity get you down because that's just like it's stupid. Like you know you've got something of value and you're being told that you don't have something of value by someone whose opinion doesn't matter and you're letting that affect your perception of what you have. You can tell it gets me frustrated, but it is the truth, right? So persistence wears down resistance, right? So when you're dealing with these dream stealers and these people that cause friction to your momentum, persistence wears down resistance, right? So it's like erosion, right? So water can wear down a rock if it just keeps on going year after year, decade after decade, right? Obviously, we don't want to take that long, which is why we're a lot stronger than water, right? So yeah, persistence wears down resistance, right? So you just have to keep going. You just have to never quit, and you will get there. You will. You just have to build the belief. You have to work with your upline. You have to be teachable. You have to do all the right things, but you will get there. Okay. And the other thing is when you're getting to build the business and when you're getting your business bigger, it isn't just your life that your business changes, right? It changes generations, right? Because who you contact and who you bring into the business is going to bring in, I don't know, it could be one person, it could be 1,000 people, it could be 10,000 people. But all those people are then going to bring people into the business. So by bringing that one person in, you've changed like hundreds of thousands of lives, right? So it isn't just your life that it impacts. It impacts generations, right? And like it's not just other people's generations, it's also your generations, right? Because what you learn in the business and what you gain from the business, you can hand down to your kids, right? For me personally, I don't really want to hand down many material possessions, but I want to teach my kids like good values, right? And good morals and how to make money rather than just how to spend money, right? So the business definitely impacts generations and it can teach you invaluable skills, right? So basically when you are building the business, we have control of two basic things, right? And that's our attitudes and our actions, right? I've talked about this before, but it is extremely important, right? So with attitudes, you obviously want to foster a positive mindset, right? So that's done very easily through listening to the CDs, reading the books, and just associating, right? So associating is basically just getting around your upline, getting around your group, and just like feeling the enthusiasm. Because when you're around a high energy like person or people, you kind of, I wouldn't say you steal their energy, but you definitely borrow it, right? So they elevate you when you're around enthusiastic, energetic people, okay? And that it does wonders for your mindset, basically, right? Because when you go out contacting, showing the plan, anything like leadership meetings, anything, when you're doing that with a positive mindset versus a negative mindset, the results, they speak for themselves, to be honest. Because when you're speaking from a negative mindset, people can tell, right? You're a bit more monotone. You're lower energy. You speak slower. All that sort of stuff, right? And people can tell that, and they feel that energy from you. So they're not going to want to get into business with you. They're not going to want to follow you, for one, and they're just not going to join your group, right? So you have to foster that positive mental attitude, and that's, like I said before, it's done through the books, the CDs, and the association, right? So it's important that you're doing all that in order to achieve the results that you want, right? Because if you just go out contacting, for example, with a negative mindset, you're going to get negative results, and then that's going to make your mindset and your mentality even worse, right? To the point where you don't want to contact, or you just straight up quit, right? Like, it's usually one of the two things. And yeah, so basically, the other thing I like to talk about with our attitudes and our actions is emotions are a great thing to feel with, but they're a terrible thing to make decisions with, right? So that quote honestly speaks for itself. I feel like I don't have to explain that any further. But the one thing I will say is that my upline always tells me is never make a permanent decision from a temporary state, right? And that's kind of the same thing about the emotions, right? So basically that just means that when you're in your ether state, right, which is like a very emotional state, it could be happy, it could be sad, it could be angry, right? When you're in that super emotional state, you don't want to make lasting decisions, right? You don't want to like quit or blow up at your upline, stuff like that that's going to cause irreparable damage, right? You don't want to do that stuff when you're in that temporary state, because you'll look back and you'll regret it, right? Because what you felt, it's not going to last, right? You're gonna come to your senses, and you're gonna look at like you're basically gonna move past it. But the permanent damage you've done, you won't be able to move past that because it's permanent, right? So never make a permanent decision from a temporary state of feeling or like being, basically, right? The other quote I like is, whatever you passionately pursue, you will possess, right? So that's basically, like, that one also speaks for itself, to be honest. But the passionately is, like, it's underlined, right? It's very important. Because if you're not passionately pursuing something, it comes back to that positive mindset, right? So people can feel your passion, right? If you're trying to sell them something, you're probably not passionate about it. Or you're maybe too passionate about it, right? And it freaks them out, right? That can definitely happen. So whatever you passionately pursue, you will possess, right? I truly believe that. And the other thing about sponsoring, this is the second last thing I'll talk about. The other thing about sponsoring is you don't really have someone sponsored until you have someone sponsored for them, right? So if I sponsor a downline, I'm working with that person, and I'm keeping them, I'm basically building the relationship so that they're emotionally invested in the business. And I'm doing that the whole time, but I'm focusing on it at the start until I have someone downline from them, right? Because as soon as they have someone downline from them, it's almost like the ego is leveraged, like, for them, I guess. Do you know what I mean? Because the person doesn't want to quit because now they're responsible for someone else's development, right? And whether they feel, most people are like, they're happy with the responsibility that comes with that, and they're kind of like, I don't know, like, proud, I guess would be the word. They're proud that they're capable enough to be responsible for someone's development, right? So you don't really have someone sponsored until you have someone sponsored for them, right? And when you do that, they're going to stay in the business because of that proud, emotionally invested feeling, right? And the last thing I will talk about is the manufacturer always determines the capacity of the vehicle, right? It's never the user, okay? So if you've got a Ferrari, you could be driving in second gear, absolutely redlining it, right? And all these like Toyota Echoes and stuff could just be flashing by you, right? And it's because you're not using the vehicle to its full capacity, right? So you're not really getting anywhere, even though you have a car that is capable of amazing things, right? So you as the user are only in like second gear or whatever, right? So it's not you that determines how fast that car can go. It's you that determines how fast that car will go, but not how fast it can go, right? So when you go up into third, fourth, fifth, sixth, you'll be flying past everyone, right? Because you're using the vehicle as it was fully intended by the manufacturer, right? And the business is exactly the same, right? I see so many people just go out and half-ass the business and be putting in like a night a week and be like, why are these people passing me by? Why? Oh, there's another platinum. There's another platinum. Why are these people passing me by? I've been in the business longer than that, right? I see so many people do that stuff and they don't understand that they're just not using the vehicle that they have, the business, as it's intended, right? The business isn't intended to be a half measure, right? You need to be fully committed and you need to be fully committed and you need to be doing all the right things. You need to be putting the time in and you can't expect the results if you're not going to put the time in, right? That's just basic to me, really. So that's everything, guys. Have a good night.